We're out here at the 24 Hours of Glen Helen. The Kurt Caselli Foundation has put a team together this year to kind of take part in a research study looking into the effects of head acceleration and fatigue on riders. It's an interesting concept. No one's really ever done a study like this before, and so our mission at the Kurt Caselli Foundation is to be on the forefront of things and really be looking to the future. Traumatic brain injury has kind of come to the forefront, in football and other sports, especially with youth these days. There's a lot going on, with concussion management programs and stuff like that. So, it's important that we get ahead of this stuff and kind of stay on the forefront. The motorcycle industry especially is kind of susceptible to, people looking in from the outside and saying that, we're putting kids at risk and we're doing different things that are dangerous. It's really important that we develop a solid concussion management program for, all of our racing.
Well, when you talk about brain injury in sports, concussion is only really part of the story. One of the things that we're starting to learn with brain injury is that repeated exposure to head accelerations can cause long-term problems. That's what the NFL is really concerned about. So what we wanted to do with a pilot study here at the 24-hour race is look at what is the head acceleration exposure to the athletes that are competing in motocross and endurance motorcycle racing. When we were thinking about what could we do to help improve the safety of the sport, we thought we really need to understand what's happening when these athletes are out there for many hours. It's a very physical sport. It's not a collision sport like football, but we need to figure out what's happening in terms of biophysics. So we've deployed sensors that are attached to the riders' helmets that measure the acceleration, the rotation, and the actual orientation of the riders' heads and their torso and the bike. And we're able to compare how much acceleration is happening with the head as it's compared to what's happening with the rest of the body and the bike. One of the things that we're exploring is what's the ability of the rider to maintain head stability when they're going over jumps and over rough terrain over long periods of time, and does that ability to maintain head stability degrade as the rider gets tired? So we're hoping that we see some of the data. We're collecting a lot of data, hoping that we see some patterns there. There's been very limited, virtually no research done on endurance off-road motorcycle racing in terms of brain injury and brain safety. But we need to start doing the research so that we're not behind the curve in learning about brain injury with this sport. Over this 24 hours, we've been collecting a lot of data. We've been assessing the riders and also the crew on their baseline neurocognitive, their ability to do eye tracking, their balance. So we're looking at a lot of different things that relate to how the brain is functioning. And we're looking at those things at the beginning of the race and at the end of the race for the riders, and the crew serves as a control. So because we're all going to be tired at the end of 24 hours, so we can look at what the effect of being tired is and what the effect of being on that motorcycle for that long period of time. So we're looking at the neurocognitive testing, we're looking at the biophysics of what kind of exposure the riders have been experiencing in terms of the head acceleration, and we're also looking at the effect of being tired and how that translates to the rider's ability to maintain head stability over a long endurance off-road motorcycle race.
This is a very preliminary study. We're early on, we're kind of gathering the basic data that they need to know scientifically to be able to understand what we as an off-road racing and motocross community go through. From there, we can build upon this and look into what happens in a crash, what happens after a concussion, the damage to helmet, different things like that. This is kind of the basics, but our long-term goal is to be able to, develop a concussion sensor that's universal, that can be fit on any motorcycle helmet, and, when someone crashes and they're out in the desert by themselves and they come in and they're, they don't feel quite right, and there could be a red light on the back of their helmet that's flashing and letting their friends and family know that they've taken an impact to their head. In the long term, that's our ultimate goal, is to develop something like that.